Along my journey of personal and spiritual growth, three of the most fascinating things that I have learned have been individuation, differentiation, and boundaries. And two of those, individuation and differentiation, well, really all three of them, but focusing on those main two, right? The individuation and differentiation. Some people don't get those earlier on in childhood, right? Their focus ends up going somewhere else. If they're raised in an environment of, chaos and enmeshment, their focus, this is where empathic stuff comes from, their focus is really tuned into everyone else, right? And so, therefore, when your focus is tuned into everyone else, you're very tuned out of yourself. So you are far less aware of yourself. And it's a wild thing because as a person grows that way, they grow further away from themselves and more into other people. And that's the fascinating, I would say, I'm going to call it an evolutionary hiccup, right? Because I know that I'm not the only person out there who has felt not only lost in life, but also as though they have lost themselves trying to be somebody, right? For the world, for society, for a culture, for whatever it is, right? And the more I look at myself and the lostness, if that's even a word, that I have found myself in, the more I look at these things: individuation, differentiation, boundaries, right? So, in childhood, when a child gets individuation, differentiation, and boundaries in a healthy way, right? They learn they learn all those in a healthy way. Their focus is on themselves. They actually have the time to play and explore. Some people didn't get that, right? Some people weren't taught about individuating and differentiating and actually setting boundaries, right? Instead, what they were taught was to focus on their environment, tune in. Why? To feel and achieve a sense of safety. That's really how that works. And so I've been there and I have experienced what it feels like to lose yourself, trying to be somebody. Now realizing that the reason why I have felt lost in life, the reason that I have felt that I've lost myself trying to be somebody, is actually one, because I fucking have. It's actually, from my own experiences, very easy to lose yourself, especially when you're trying to be somebody, right? But the reason that this happens, in my own experiences, from my opinion, is because when your focus is not tuned into yourself, which is healthy in childhood, and instead tuned into everyone else, and not only that, but also maybe in survival you learned that you have to neglect yourself and you've got to take care of everyone else's needs first, right? You've got to take care of mom and dad, right? For whatever reason, maybe they are not at the level of maturity they need to be, right? And then the roles become reversed, and then the child ends up becoming the parent and they caretake, right? And that's how that kind of stuff happens. But the most important thing here, which is these three things, we'll call it the most important thing: individuation, differentiation, healthy boundaries, right? What I have noticed, looking at myself and also like looking at other people that have had healthy individuation, healthy differentiation, and healthy boundaries. Let's look at what those three are, by the way, real quick. Individuation, right? When you basically recognize, individuation and differentiation are kind of similar. Individuation is when you can recognize self and other, right? You individuate, you cut yourself off from, right? Differentiation is more so self and other, right? That's your shit, this is my shit, right? And then boundaries is kind of just like the icing on the cake, the complement of all that stuff, right? Boundaries is, when somebody has healthy boundaries, they go into a social situation, somebody's coming at them with a lot of really just crazy energy, right? They have the boundary set in place of, that's your shit, not mine, I'm not going to take it on. That's how that works. So what I've discovered from my own experience, so I'll just talk about my own experience, when I feel that I've lost myself, right? Or that I feel like I've lost myself trying to be somebody, it's a result of not having had the healthy individuation, differentiation, and boundaries. Because that structure is what basically creates the foundation for a sense of self to grow, right? If you don't know yourself, if you don't know who you are, if you feel like you're lost, if you feel like you're trying to be somebody, there's a key word there that I'm going to use, trying to be somebody. Somebody who has had healthy individuation, differentiation, and boundaries, they know who the fuck they are. And they're not trying to be somebody. They just are themselves. And they don't have to think twice about it because there aren't those insecure thoughts of, what if this isn't the right thing to be doing? There's confidence there. They know themselves well enough to be able to do that, right? And so it's funny too because like I was watching a video the other day about like, stop trying to do things and just do them. And I thought about it and I was like, that's fascinating. You're not going to try to get a glass of water. You're just going to get a glass of water, right? But people who try to be somebody, it's usually because they don't have a solid foundation, and that is usually, from everything that I've learned, specifically in clinical psychology, is because they didn't have that healthy individuation, differentiation, and boundaries set up for them when they were younger, right? One of the coolest things that I have learned that a child can get is not to be pushed in a direction, but instead, like for instance, like if you present to a child, hey, do you like blue or do you like orange, right? And then the child makes the choice, I like blue, right? You're not going to be like, no, like orange. Like orange, damn it. What the fuck's wrong with you? Why don't you like, Didn't mean to scare anyone, by the way. What a lot of children actually get is, no, you need to like orange. Fuck blue. You're supposed to like orange. My parents aren't going to like you if you don't like orange. And then there are all these, generational expectations and all this bullshit that a bunch of children are fucking inlaid with, and I sincerely dislike it. It's the way to make sure that the healthy individuation, differentiation, and boundaries are set in place is not by pushing a child to be a certain way. This is why whenever I see parents have kids and they're like, yeah, I want my kids to do this and that. It's like, you can suggest it, you can encourage it, but don't push it, don't force it, right? When you lose yourself trying to be somebody, it's usually because you don't have a solid sense of self, and that's usually because you didn't get the healthy individuation, differentiation, and boundaries, right? Those things are absolutely crucial in terms of forming a sense of self for anybody. And along my journey, what I've experienced is that there have been multiple times when I've felt totally lost, and I've reflected on those times, and I'm like, oh shit, permeable boundaries. Yeah, that's an issue of permeable boundaries right there. Maybe, you set a boundary and then somebody just punches right the fuck through it, right? And then you accept it, you tolerate it, you allow it, it just keeps going on and gets worse. When you lose yourself trying to be somebody, again, the whole trying thing, right? You don't have to try to be somebody, right? It's a matter of what feels right and what feels authentic. But again, so let's look at the trying part, right? When you're trying to be somebody, if the way you are feels right, then it's natural, and therefore you don't have to try. You just do. You're just being you. You like that? And so it doesn't have anything to do with trying and everything to do with being, but the people that feel like they're trying to be somebody feel that way, likely because they didn't get that healthy foundation earlier on in life. Like, individuation, differentiation, and boundaries all in a healthy way are completely and absurdly fucking necessary, because it's actually very easy for a person to feel lost and to feel like they've lost themselves trying to be somebody, and even feel like they don't know who they are. Yeah, you're not going to know who you are if you don't have boundaries. Boundaries. For Chris, I like the color blue. Cool. Right? That adjusts itself in the, that's a brick in the wall. Not to get all Pink Floyd. That's a brick in the wall for the structure of Chris. That's a part of his boundaries, right? He doesn't like pink. Not to say that he actually does, not to say that I actually don't, but it's just a matter of knowing the self. And with the knowing of the self, you can just be you. And you're not going to feel lost because you have what you need. You got to individuate. You know how to differentiate self and other. And the boundaries. Yes, no, right? Like, that's how it works. And yeah, when you feel like you've lost yourself or you're losing yourself trying to be somebody, it's because something just doesn't feel right. But something doesn't feel right because you don't fully know yourself. You don't fully know yourself because you didn't get the opportunity to individuate and differentiate and understand that there is self and there is other. And you don't have to take on everyone else's shit. In fact, it's not healthy to take on everyone else's shit, because when you do take on everyone else's shit, life gets a lot heavier for you and it's really fucking hard to do anything, you know? So just letting go of this idea that you need to try to be somebody. It's a matter of being yourself, but being yourself is a result of having those three things in a healthy way, right? Because then you don't have to worry about anything. You're confident. You know what it is that you want. You know who you are. You know where you're going, right? And then decisions aren't even something that you have to second guess. If you need a third-party advice, then that's okay, but I've known what it feels like to lose myself trying to be somebody, all the while healing and recovering, realizing that, oh wow, that had to do with a lack of healthy boundaries. That had to do with a lack of individuation and differentiation, right? Growing up in a family system of enmeshment, oh my God, yeah, people like that, they're going to have a very hard time with just being themselves, right? That's a whole issue of unhealthy boundaries, right? And so when you take a step back and you see what's really going on there, you can take a breath and you'll realize, like, oh wow, I don't have to try to be somebody. I realize why I lost myself. I lost myself because I didn't get what I needed in childhood, right? And then you can really start to do the work, and you can introspect, reflect, tweak, heal, grow, evolve, change, be fucking awesome, because that's what it's like to be a human, alive, on this fucking awesome planet. It's so cool. It really is. And then you bring all of your energy and your focus and awareness back to yourself, and you start doing the things that you actually want to do. And that's when everything changes. And then everything's just fucking effortless.